everybody. My name is Jessica Merrifield,
And I'm Sara Wedel.
and we are here today with the Biblical Buckaroo. So, Sara and I kind of discussed this a couple weeks ago, I guess, really. It wasn't very long ago.
Yeah.
And we decided that we really needed to have podcasts together because it was way more fun to do it with each other. Sara and I have had the great honor of getting together over social media and doing a podcast on my podcast, the Thousand Bibles podcast, last year. And we just became good friends now.
Yeah.
And so we've decided to do it together. And it was Sara's idea to do the Biblical Buckaroo.
So I kind of lightly started the Biblical Buckaroo with a couple of podcast episodes, and a few people listening to this have probably already listened to those podcast episodes. But after my husband and I got back into ranching, and then within the last few years of training horses, I've really started to correlate my faith and my horsemanship and realizing that God gave me this passion for a reason, and he's utilizing horses to speak to me. And so I started this Biblical Buckaroo podcast that I was doing. I did a couple of episodes on, and then I was making some, posts on social media talking about how horsemanship and faith really correlate with each other. And it's pretty amazing how many, what other people would say is coincidences, how training horses can really correlate with your relationship with God and how he can utilize horses to speak to you. Over the past few years, I've really started to notice more often than not in my training sessions when I'm working with horses, there's a lot of times that God is utilizing that to speak to me with what I am struggling with personally in my life at that point in time. And so I've started to see all of these realizations working with horses where it's just this giant like aha moment, where I say something to the horse and I'm like, can't you just do this? Just relax, just slow down, just, if you come to me, you'll understand. Stop trying to, figure it out by yourself. And then all of a sudden I'm like, God's speaking to me. Like in this very moment in my life with the things that I'm struggling with, showing me that the things that I'm saying to these horses and the things that I'm struggling with these horses are like the same things that God is trying to show me, And so I started doing a couple episodes of the Biblical Buckaroo podcast, and then I did some posts on my Facebook page sharing those things. And yeah, then Jess reached out to me. She's like, we got to do these podcasts together. I'm like, I was thinking of asking you the same thing. It's just one of those things that like God put the same thing on both of our hearts together. And it was something that we were both really, really excited to move forward with.
Yeah, this has been a huge blessing for me, just getting to be friends with you and talk to you, because surprisingly, I actually followed Sara for several years on social media and thought she was the coolest person ever. So when I reached out, and part of the only reasons I actually reached out was because my best friend, McKaylee, knew you. And she was like, oh yeah, I know Sara. She's great. And I'm like, you know her? And so I reached out and I was like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And so just a huge blessing for me and that, because, I hadn't even started a spade bit horse yet when I first started watching you and like watching your episodes. And then, it really gave me the courage to say, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I had made bridle horses. I had, Mona Lisa bit here or there, half breed or whatever that I'd use. But I was like, no, I really want to do the spade. But, price on spades are a little more expensive usually than a Mona Lisa. And so, yeah, it was really cool to get to reach out to you and then talk to you. I was so nervous that podcast. I was like, shaking, I swear. And now, like, it's really awesome, like, watching you post more about your faith and talking to you, because our minds work so similar. Like, everything you post, I read. Everything that you put up there, I'm like, dude, yes, same, like, all the time. And so it's so cool to get to do this together now and share our understanding of our relationship through God, through horses. That was the whole start of Bridles and Bibles for me. And I think horses were the only way I actually understood what having a relationship with Christ even actually meant. Because I grew up watching VeggieTales and, you hear, it's like one of those things, like you hear it over and over and over. And then one day it actually clicks. And that horsemanship was what clicked. Just like you said, you're sitting there, you're training your horse and you're going, why won't you come to me? Why won't you just listen? And when I saw that in the horse, I was like, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. I'm way too much in my own self-preservation, freaking out about what's going on in the world that really doesn't matter, because the plastic bag is not going to kill you.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, Bridles and Bibles, the whole preface is just to say, okay, you know how to train a horse, or you work with a horse, or you own a horse, or you have a relationship with a horse. This is how you work with it. God's doing the same thing to you. And I've always said,
Yeah.
horsemanship is one of the rare opportunities where you actually get to step into God's shoes
Yeah.
and go, okay, you're the leader in this situation. You want to help
Yeah.
this horse. You want to get him to grow. This is how you do it. And that's God doing it to us. And that
Yeah.
to me is just such a huge blessing in itself to be able to go, oh, wow, there's a huge understanding here. Like God's ability to use that tool right there is like, wow.
Yeah. And I find it really funny that you were super nervous for the podcast that you and I did together because I was too. Like I've been on quite a few other people's podcasts talking about spade bits, talking about Mustangs, talking about horse training. And this was the first one that I was like genuinely nervous about. And when you emailed me the questions, I actually practiced them multiple times. And I went home and on Jeff's day off, I was like, hey, can I read you these questions and then tell you what I'm thinking about saying? And if you tell me if that sounds okay or not. And so Jeff
Yeah.
had to sit there and listen to me talk for like an hour answering these questions that I kept rehearsing because I'm like, this has got to be right. Like, this is correlating my two biggest passions in my life together. And it has to be accurate on the horsemanship sense and it has to be accurate on the biblical sense because I don't want to lead anyone astray on either one of those.
Right.
And so I
Definitely.
was so stinking nervous for that podcast. Like I rehearsed those questions over and over. Like every time I was driving in the car, I would rehearse a question and I'd just sit there. I mean, people probably thought I was crazy because I'm just driving down the road talking. There's no radio going or anything like that. And I'm just talking in the car.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, I know that podcast, it was so fun just to sit down and just talk to you for the first time and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was so crazy because when you had Junie and not too much later, I had Layla and now we both
Yeah.
even have little girls that are similar in age and
Yeah.
like worked on ranches. I worked the sale barn that you used to work at now.
Yeah.
Like our lives are so close together. It's kind of insane
Yeah.
sometimes to think about, like, we go through so many of the same things. We've seen the same stuff and working in
Yeah.
feedlots and sale barns and ranches and working with cowboys. And, it's really interesting because of all the times that, like, I I look back at my life. I look back at all the times that I cowboyed and I tried so hard to prove that I was tough enough, I was strong enough, I could do all of these things.
Yeah.
And now I see why I did it. I see the passion behind it, and I learned a ton,
Yeah.
but now I have the desire to be like, "I don't need to prove anything. I'm good."
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly. Yeah.
cool and it's great to be able to sit down with somebody else who, always feels the same way. You can sit there
Yeah.
and be like, "Oh, yeah, my husband's out doing his thing, and I'm staying at home, and I'm watching the kid, and it's okay." I don't
Yeah.
need to go out and prove that I can do these things. Like, I don't
Yeah.
start colts anymore, and that's something I think
Yeah.
surprises people a lot. I'm like, "I don't need to. I have enough
Yeah.
concussions. I've broken my pelvis. Like,
Yeah.
I got a little girl who needs me. I don't need to
Yeah.
go start colts. I don't need to prove that I can go start colts. My husband's a great colt starter. I don't need to do
Yeah.
nothing." Like, it's
Exactly.
fine.
Yeah. God is calling me to do something different. And the only one that I need to prove myself to right now is that little girl that I'm a good mom.
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
that's the only, and that's
Yep.
what, it's pretty amazing how God can change your heart after having a little one and how your priorities change and how your mindset changes. It's pretty absolutely amazing to me. Like the things that I saw as top notch priority before in my life, now I'm like, I even consider, now I'm like, people message me and they're like, can you start a cult? And I'm like, nope.
Nope.
No, I just
Nope.
don't, I just don't have the desire to do it. I'll put some refinement on your horses. I'll give them ranch miles, but right now my life is taking care of my little girl and that I couldn't think of anything better to do with my life at this point in time.
Yeah. I know it's been interesting this month. We've had, gosh, like 3 Christmas parties that we've had to go to. And you meet new people and they come up and they ask you, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And so many times I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom."
Mhm,
And then I tell them, I work at the sale barn on Wednesdays and help out.
mhm.
And I help my husband. And then I run our nonprofit, which is Bridles and Bibles. And then people go, "Oh, I've recognized Bridles and Bibles. I've heard of that." And I'm like, "Not
Yeah,
me." But it's interesting that, first priority is I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a wife.
Yeah.
This is like, and that's something that God has always said, like, this is your top priority. And it's interesting how, like, for bridles and Bibles, a lot of times people always ask us what it is. And it's really hard to define at times because it's a ministry, right?
Yeah.
But it's also a horse clinic. It's clinician. It's
Yeah.
free. And so that part always stumps people. They're like, well, what do you mean that it's free? I'm like, it's free. You just show up, you bring your horse, you ride with us.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. And then it's it's got a couple different programs in it. We've got obviously like the podcast. We've got, a couple different things that we do. We've got a youth program. We put on a horse show every year. We do a couple different fundraisers for it. We have our travel clinics. We have our monthly meetings.
Mhm.
And for me, like, I never really expected it to grow beyond the monthly meetings because that's how it started. It was just supposed to be like, oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
have a meeting every month. You come, you bring your horse, you ride with us. We talk about Jesus. You go home. I never see you again.
Yeah.
And now it's all of these different pieces, and we have a whole board, and everything's growing and changing, and it's awesome. It is
Yeah.
also really scary. And I think the part that stumps me the most is God, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called, right? And
Yeah.
I've been in Matthew this month and just reading a couple different pieces. But right before you and I actually like hopped on and you're having troubles with your computer and stuff, I was actually reading in Matthew chapter 10, and I was reading about the 12 apostles.
Mhm.
And it was really cool because, we're reading about these apostles. And have you been watching The Chosen?
Yeah.
So I
Well, I
love,
haven't been up to date with it lately, but I have seen a majority of the show, yeah.
I'm just now watching season 5 because I'm scared of Jesus' crucifixion, and I had to like
Yeah.
get
I
ready
don't
for it
blame you because
mentally
I
for a
haven't gotten
couple
there
months
either
before I'm
myself.
like, but I love that show because I love it. It shows the character of the apostles, right? And I love
Yeah.
how human they are. And
Yeah.
one piece that people always come up to me and they ask, they're like, how do you speak in front of people? Did you, take speaking classes? Did you do this? Did you do that? And I'm like, no, I haven't done any of that. I did not learn how to speak. I was so shy in school. Like, they make you stand up there and present. I would sit in there and shake in front of like 20
Yeah.
kids. And now I stand up in front of tons of people and they're like, how do you do this? I'm like, it is not me. So this was one verse that I saw right before we hopped on. It says, do not be anxious about how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. For it is not you
Oh.
who speak, but the Spirit of your Father who's speaking through you. And I remember the first time this happened. It felt like I was taking a step back, and then all of a sudden these words were coming out of my mouth. And it was
Yeah.
long before I started Bridles and Bibles. I was doing travel lessons. I'd go to people's houses and stuff. And I was teaching this one girl who was in 4-H and kind of just teaching her how to have a relationship with her horse, how to train her horse at home. So then when she went to 4-H practices, she was ready.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to her, and I wasn't even talking about Christ. I was just talking about horses. But it was like I took a step back and I was like,
Yeah.
what just came out of my mouth? And now I feel it happen all the time. I feel the Holy Spirit take over and speak.
Yeah.
And that is what people come up to me. They're like, you speak so well. And I just want to be like, dude, you don't understand. It's not me. I didn't
Yeah.
do it. If you put me in any other situation, you ask me questions about myself, I'm going to stand there and be like,
Yeah. Like I'm the same way. I'm that person when you're at a restaurant and the waiter says, enjoy your lunch. And I go, oh, you too.
yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
then you think about it for the next
100%.
3 weeks. You too. Come on.
Right? Exactly. It's so strange being this person that God uses, but for me,
Yeah.
I see it as a horse, right? Like you get on
Yeah.
that horse and you go do that job, and all that horse has to do is listen to you. If that
Yeah.
horse can listen really well, you can go out and you can do any job. It's when they don't
Yeah.
listen that doing the job gets hard.
Yeah. And that's something like just within the past few weeks, like I've talked about that so many times through my clinics, through my lessons, through educational posts, talking about teaching a horse to listen. And then also at the same time, be willing to listen and in tune with you, not just do what you say, but having a try and a willingness behind it and
Right.
how to get your horse that way. And like one of my lessons, I've referenced this story probably like 40 times within the last month because this is something that like talking about training your horse to have control of their whole body. If I tell you to put your foot here, you put your foot there. If I tell you to move your shoulders like this, you move your shoulders like that. And it gets to the point where it doesn't matter the things that you go out and do. If your horse doesn't know how to do them, it doesn't matter. If you have a general concept of how to do those things, you're going to perform well. And so like my friend Megan and Davis and we did some lessons up in North Idaho when we were up there. And we were given a group lesson, and there's quite a few people there who wanted to get into speed events and do omoxies and barrel races and things like that. And they wanted to learn the horsemanship aspect and base it off of true horsemanship. And there was this one girl there. She kept going around, like trying to go around a barrel and turn her horse. And she was just pulling that horse's nose around. And that horse would just leak through the shoulder and keep going almost in a straight line, and just blow past the barrel. And I kept telling her, like, what we were working on in that lesson was framing a horse around your leg was what the point of that lesson was. And getting them to bend and melt around your leg and just be balanced through it. And she's like, she came up to me and she's like, I don't understand. She's like, when it comes to barrels, and she was just getting into barrels, granted. And I'm not a barrel racer. I mean, anyone who's followed me on social media for any point in time knows that I probably have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth to barrel racing. And I used to barrel race back when I was in high school and stuff like that with 4-H and stuff. And I was horrible at it, but I wanted to go fast. But ever since I've based, putting the horse first in horsemanship, I'm like, barrel racing isn't for me. But she was just telling me, she's like, she doesn't see the point in doing this with her horse. And so I was like, well, your horse has to be like, I'm like, if you break down, I said, me not knowing really that much about barrels other than what the pattern is, you're just knowing how a horse should be moving to maneuver around that barrel with speed and impulsion to get the speed and get a good time. Your horse has to be balanced. They have to be collected. They have to be rounded and moldable to you so that they can get around that barrel. And she's like, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. So I took Filly Nick, and granted, Filly Nick is not a fast horse. She is probably one of the slowest horses out there. And I was like, okay, I was riding Phil in the traditional hackamore. I'm like, I'll go run the barrel pattern. So I go and run the barrel pattern. And Phil, she framed around that barrel. She gave me a good pocket, came around. And as soon as we were around that barrel, I just kissed. And she had, she was collected up and had that impulsion to just pick up speed just like that. And I was able to rate and frame around the barrel and go to the next one and came back. And she ran it like she had ran the barrel pattern like 500 times.
Yeah.
And I come back and I, at the end, I ask her to stop. She stops on her hind end and just stands there. And this girl's like, oh my gosh. She's like, you've done an amazing job training her for barrels. Like, you've probably done the barrels a lot on her. I'm like, that is the first time in this horse's life that she's ever ran around, let alone one barrel, let alone 3.
Yeah.
And she was like blown away. She's like, you're telling me you've never done the barrel pattern on that horse? I'm like, not once. In the 6 years that I've had her, has she ever ran around a barrel? And right there, like a big light went off in her head. And I said, even though she didn't know how to do barrels, she wasn't patterned. When I went to go around that barrel, I knew the general concept of what she needed to do to perform, to do that and not break down into the trot, not leak out and go super wide around the barrel, but come around tight enough to not knock it over, but collect it up and balanced. So when we came around that barrel, she was ready to just hit the gas and go and then come around the next barrel. And her mind was just blown. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, and I'm like, that is why it is important to train your horses to listen to you. I said, on this horse, I'm completely confident. Like, I could go out and do mounted shooting on this horse, even though neither one of us have ever done that. And I would have a good time doing it. And she wouldn't be fazed by it because she knows that she's supposed to listen to me. And she would look like she knows what she's doing because she doesn't care about all of the obstacles or things around her. She cares about what I'm telling her to do.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that I reference that story a lot when it comes to people like trying to teach them the importance of training your horses to have that much control of them. Like, a lot of them see that moving the shoulders and the hind end and like softening, and they're like, that's a bunch of fancy arena stuff. I'm like, but it's not. It's the foundational things to do in whatever industry If you want to do show jumping, if you want to do dressage, if you want to do mounted shooting, if you want to do extreme obstacles, barrel racing, pole bending, trail riding, like these are all the fundamental things that you need to do for your horse
Yeah.
to perform well.
It's like that quote. I think it's like beginners work on uh the fundamentals, intermediate work on advanced, and advanced riders work on the fundamentals.
Yeah,
It's
that
the
one.
foundation. It's going back down to, if I shift my weight and ask for this leg, is this leg gonna move, right? Am I gonna be
Yeah,
able to get your hindquarters to move and your front end to stop, and vice versa, and side pass and back up correctly? And for me, like, with gosh, it was so weird, like, my own story of understanding the basics. So I started off, I went through Wade's program at the college, Wade Black, learned from him, went to work at the feedlot. And Wade would always tell us, he goes, go work at a feedlot, go work at a ranch, and take client horses and double your money, right? That's how you make it by as a cowboy. You take client horses, you ride the client horses at the job pays you, so you double twice. So that's what I do. And then I'd give the client horse back, and the person would call me again in like 6 months to a year. Oh, the horse won't load in the trailer again. I'm like, it's not the horse, dude, it's you. And so
yeah,
that's where, after I got done kind of working branch jobs, I was like, I'm going to go train the people. Because obviously that's where the problem's at. It's not the
yeah,
horse. So that's when I started doing the travel lessons, and I'd work with them. And all I did was teach them foundational things. That's it. I
yeah,
always just worked on the foundation. It was like, okay, move your horse's hind end here. This is how you sit correctly. This is how you do this. And as I started working with more and more people on their horses, I started to see that, horses are a mirror, right? They really reflect
yeah,
their rider. And so somebody would get on their horse and they'd be anxious, and now their horse is anxious. They're having these problems. And I'm like, man, you need a therapist and Jesus. You don't need me.
yeah,
And I know from like personal experience, because my mother's a therapist, that you cannot fix people. People can only fix themselves. And Jesus, right? Jesus can
yeah,
fix you. I cannot. And so I'm
yeah,
sitting there like, okay, I can't fix the horse. I can fix the horse, but the horse is going to go back to the person, and the person's broken, and I can't fix the person, but I know who can. And that's kind of
yeah,
where Bridles and Bibles honestly came from. It was like, let's get down to the actual root cause of what makes good horsemen and
yeah,
set people up. And then, of course, my idea of going and doing riding lessons at people's places, working with them and their horses, it was great, except for the fact that I give people the foundation. I'd only work with them for maybe a year. And then it was like, okay, great, you got it. Now go learn from somebody else, which is not a
yeah,
great business practice
yeah,
because I was always out of clients. And I'm like, well, this isn't really working.
yeah,
And so now with Bridles and Bibles, I do really, really love being a clinician. I love talking to people, and I love talking to people about God, and I love bringing it back to the horse portion too.
yeah,
But all I teach is foundation, literally
yeah,
how to set a foundation. And I think that's one thing we miss so much in Christianity is,
yes,
and you hear it all the time, God's my strong foundation. God is my foundation. There's songs about it, right? Like,
yeah,
but we don't ever tell anybody how to build that foundation. Like, if you were to tell me to go build a house, I know you start with the foundation. I have no idea how you start building a foundation. I
yeah,
don't know how to do that. And that's something that we miss. Horses is like starting colts. That's what Wade taught us in class in college. He was like, this is how you set the foundation. He didn't taught
yeah,
us how to ride colts. He didn't teach us how to fix horses. He gave
yeah,
us a foundation and then said, okay, go out and use it for whatever it else is that you're going to go do. And so with Bridles and Bibles, the idea was, okay, this is how you build a foundation in Christ. Because
yeah,
what happens is so many churches, so many places, so many ministries, they get so excited about bringing new Christians in and bringing people to God, but then they kind of get high and dry. It's like
yeah,
being that little kid, and it's like, oh, I'm so excited about horses because I love Heartland. And then they come and
yeah,
they start riding horses, and then they fall apart because no one really taught them how to ride the horse.
yeah,
And this is the foundation of Christ, and it's about building yourself and building who you are and your identity in Jesus Christ, and
yeah,
knowing He is your Savior, and knowing and building that relationship, because you start getting into that relationship and then things get hard. And then we
yeah,
go, and we kind of drop the ball, because I did it so many times. I'd start following Jesus and I'd be like, hey, God, I love you. This is great. And then things would get difficult. And I'd go, the world. And
yeah,
then I'd drop the ball.
yeah,
Now, I remember getting to the point where I lost everything again. My whole life fell apart for the umpteenth time. And I remember sitting in my car, and it was late and it was dark and I was exhausted. And I'm like in tears crying, screaming at God at the top of my lungs, just like, what do you want from me? Just crying, ugly, angry, mad, right?
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me, he's like, I need you to follow me because I have big plans for you.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm like, no, no, no way, right?
Not me.
Yeah. And I wish that, like, right then and there, I could say, oh, yeah, I just immediately started following God's plan
Yeah.
and I never wandered off. But I did. And
Yeah.
it's not a beautiful start where, the colt gets started in 3 days and they're amazing and wonderful because
Yeah.
they're well bred. We're more like the Mustangs or the broken saddle pony who's been tried to be started at least 6 different times, and it takes a couple
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And, like, even to this day, though, I'm still a work in progress. Like, in terms of bridle horses, I'm still probably in the hackamore. Like,
Yeah.
but you're getting closer, right? We're getting there, and
Yeah.
that's the beautiful journey. And I think it's something like, it's not like, oh, well, like in my 20s or my 30s, and by the time I'm 45, like I'll be really close to God and I'll have this
Yeah.
figured out. No, it's the training lasts your whole life. And that's
Yeah.
the whole reason you're here, is just to be trained by God. This is like boot camp. You're here put on
Yeah.
this earth for boot camp, get closer to God, and then you get to go be with him, right? Then you
Yeah.
get to be close with him in heaven, but enjoy the training and the learning while you're here. And don't be
Yeah.
afraid to learn more.
Yeah. That's like, you talking about the foundation of horses, and there's like so many things that like there's a lot of things out there that people think is what is a solid foundation for a horse. But when it comes to somebody who is knowledgeable and experienced, like they get that horse and they're like, yeah, this horse isn't anywhere. How many times have you gotten a person that messaged you and they're like, I've done all of the groundwork. I've done all of the things. All you got to
Yep.
do is get on him and ride him. And you
Yep.
get that horse and you're like, this horse can't even move its shoulders. This horse can't disengage its hind end. Like the only thing this horse knows is to not blow up when it's hit with pool noodles.
Yeah.
And that's like, and to lunge. Like it's been desensitized to death
Yep.
and it knows how to be chased in a circle. Like there's none of the foundation here. And I think that's that comes into our relationship with God. Like a lot of Christians believe that they have a true foundation in Christ because they were born and raised in the church, or they had Christian family or parents or whatever. And then later on in life, you kind of discover I really did not have a foundation. Like just because I said I was a Christian and I did all the things, but in reality, you were just that desensitized colt. You didn't have that deep rooted foundation that gives you more depth of a relationship with Christ. And like growing up, I was born and raised in, my dad was a deacon and an elder at the church. My oldest sister, she's a missionary. Her and her husband are missionaries in Indonesia. And like my parents were first generation Christians. They came from some rough upbringings. But by the time that I had come around, they were pretty well founded Christians and heavily involved in the church. We went to church every Sunday. Part of my job, as a kid was helping mom clean the church. We were there every Wednesday night for, youth groups and everything like that. And Bible studies, we were there every Sunday. Anytime the church had, a cleanup day or a maintenance day, we were involved with the Bible camps and, small group studies and all of that. And everything in my life was just surrounded by Christianity, God. And I was born and raised going to church camp every week, every summer for a week through my entire childhood. I was even a cabin leader at that church camp later on in life when I got old enough. I thought that I really had a good foundation in Christ because I was born and raised around it. But when I got to be an adult and I got to be on my own, I found out that my foundation wasn't as solid as I thought it was because I had fallen away from Christ, got out into the world and got excited to do worldly things.
Yeah.
And fallen away from Christ pretty heavily, got into partying, got into heavy drinking and a lot of other things like that. And I refused to see my family because I was scared of the lectures that I was going to get. I stopped going to church, stopped praying, stopped reading my Bible, all of that. And that was all after my dad had passed away. And I really found out that my tie to Christ was reliant on my dad. And when my dad passed away, It was like I lost my tie to Christ and I'd fallen away from Christ. And so later on, now that I have a true relationship with God and a deep rooted relationship with God, I see it was definitely a bad thing to have my relationship rooted in somebody else to keep me grounded in Christ. That it's not somebody else that keeps you grounded in Christ. It is your heart and your decisions and your personal relationship with God that keeps you rooted with Christ. And so I was that desensitized dead colt with pool noodles. But then when it came to more advanced things with my relationship with Christ, yeah, I knew the 10 Commandments. I could quote a lot of Bible verses and passages. I knew the Bible. I knew God. I knew every single hymn in the hymn book and all of those things. And then coming back to Christ after my dad had passed and after a few years of falling away, I realized that my foundation in Christ truly wasn't that strong. I was just like a desensitized horse that isn't trained to think through things and process.
Yep.
I was just rolling through the motions. And when the road got rocky for me, I had bad reactions. Instead of stopping and thinking and going back to Christ, I blew up.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with that heavily desensitized colt. They were never trained to think and process through things. They're only trained to stand and tolerate and roll through the motions.
Right.
It's not a true foundation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after meeting my husband, going cowboying, and then especially after becoming a mom, like becoming a mom has more deeply rooted me in Christ than anything ever has before in my entire life. I cannot imagine being a mother and not having Christ in your life.
Yes.
For the longest time, I was told that I couldn't even have kids. Like, they recommended that I get a hysterectomy. And I was this close to getting a hysterectomy. Jeff and I were talking about it, and I was just like, if I can't have kids, what's the point of having these parts? You know, I'm done with it. And so it's like one of those things that we just kept postponing and postponing. And then I had a period, but it wasn't normal. And so I went to the doctor and he was like, and they tested my blood levels and I found out that I had a miscarriage. And that was something that was very difficult for me to process because I'm like, how do you mourn the loss of somebody that you didn't even know existed? Like I had a lot of friends that knew they were pregnant and they had a miscarriage and it was a very difficult process for them. And so for me, I was like, at first it was like going through that. I'm like, how do I process this? Like, I didn't even know that this baby existed. And then it was this whole weird emotional thing for me. Well, I've been told for so many years that I couldn't even get pregnant, and I was pregnant. I know that obviously I can't get pregnant now, but do I want to keep trying? Because what if I just have miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage, and that's going to be difficult. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this time and time again. And it was like 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant with Juniper. Yeah, and then 9 months later, we had Juniper. And then after having Juniper, we did have a little scare where the placenta started to detach. And we went to the hospital. And they were like, well, you just got to go home. If you miscarry, you miscarry. And I'm like, I don't want to go home and lose my baby.
Holy cow.
What do you do? And they're like, there's nothing we can do. They're like, if it happens, it happens. And so I went home and like, I probably never spent more time in prayer in my life than I did that night. And they put me on bed rest and all of it. And this was, of course, a week before we were moving to North Idaho. I was supposed to be packing. It was just one of those things. I'm like, God, it is in your hands. And so we moved up to North Idaho with me on bed rest. My mom came down and she helped us pack and move. She did everything. And then after that, like, I was like, okay, it's in the Lord's hands. Like, I was so scared to do anything because what if I miscarry our baby? You know, what if I go out and ride my horse and something happens? And then one day Jeff was just like, Sara, he's like, you got to put it in God's hands. You can't make yourself miserable by sitting in a chair all day, terrified that something's going to happen. He's like, you know how to ride a horse. You know what you're doing. Don't go out and do something stupid. But if it's good for your mental health to go and get on your horse, go and do it. If it brings you closer to God, go and do it. And so I started riding again. And and I rode up until a week before Juniper was born. And the only reason why I stopped riding was because it snowed a bunch and then it rained and then everything was a solid sheet of ice. So I'm like, I can't ride safely in that, even not pregnant. So after having Juniper, like, it took Jeff and I 7 years to have her in the first place after being told you can't have kids and then miscarrying a baby and then finally and then getting pregnant. It was one of those things that I'm super like freak out, like wake up every 15 minutes and check if she's breathing.
Yeah.
Like, everything I was just, like, overprotective about everything because I was so scared of losing her. I'm like, it took me so long to get her,
Right.
and I can't imagine if I didn't have God in my life, I would have never made it through that. We had an episode with her where she had a brew event, which is do you know what that is? It's a brief,
Yeah, I remember you telling me about it.
unresolved. Yeah, and, like, we
Yeah.
woke up and she wasn't breathing,
Yeah.
and, like,
Ugh.
I started screaming, and then Jeff took her from me, and he picked her up, and she was, like, cold, and she wasn't moving, she was just limp, and I'm like, oh my gosh," like, freaking out, like, immediately start praying, "Please, dear God, please, dear God," and when I turned on the light, like, jostled her away because she started breathing. Of course, I called the doctor, and they're like, "Yeah, that's happens sometimes." I'm like,
Yeah, it's
"What?"
totally fine. Your baby just stopped breathing.
Yeah, it's totally normal for your baby to stop breathing every once in a while. You know, it's when they don't start back up that you should start getting concerned.
Right? Yeah. Like, how are you supposed to know whether or not your child's gonna start breathing again
Yeah.
after that?
And I didn't sleep for, like, 2 weeks. I was starting because I was so sleep deprived, I was starting to have, like, hallucinations and stuff, like, and hearing noises that weren't there because I was too scared to fall asleep. I had to watch her breathing.
Yeah.
And so then that was one of those times I'm like, I need to hand it to God. I need to give this to God. And so every night, laying her down to go to sleep, I just prayed over her. Dear God, there's nothing better than I can do for my daughter as a human than to lay her life in the hands of the creator of the universe.
Yep.
And praying to God, handing her life over to him and saying, God, please take care of my baby was the only thing that got me through that newborn stage because I can't imagine going through that and not having God in my life and not being able to get that peace and that solace from God to calm my heart and to calm my mind and be able to lay my troubles on him. Like, I would be absolutely bat crazy right now
Yeah.
because my brain would have completely deteriorated from lack of sleep. So,
Yeah. You mentioned how you struggle to get pregnant. You have endometriosis, right?
yes,
Yeah, I do
I
too.
have I have both endometriosis and adenomyosis.
Wow.
So, endometriosis is scarring of the inside of the uterus, and
Yeah.
adenomyosis is scarring on the outside. So, it's like all of my insides are just scarred up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found out that I have it actually after I had Layla.
Really?
And yeah. So I kind of always knew there was something wrong. Like I always
Yeah.
had an idea like, oh, yeah, there's
This
something
isn't
going on.
normal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there was one time where I was pretty sure that I had a miscarriage.
Mhm.
And I was pretty sure that I was pregnant because I could just feel it. And I remember I
Yeah.
prayed to God. I was like, am I pregnant? He goes, yes, you're pregnant. And I was sitting in church and I also remember hearing him say, you're not going to keep it. And I was like, I must have misheard that. And I
Yeah.
went to the doctor and I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure that I'm pregnant. And they took a test, they did a blood test and stuff. They're like, you're not pregnant. Like, I'm pretty sure that I'm pregnant. And so like it was like a day or two later and I started bleeding profusely
Yeah.
heavily. And I was so devastated because I wanted to be a mom really, really bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like I got pregnant again. And that was the only miscarriage that I had. That was the only time that it was difficult. And it wasn't until after I had Layla and I had a really, really, really rough pregnancy. Like,
Yeah.
granted, I got ridiculously fat when I got pregnant because my husband eats a lot. And that
Yeah.
was not something I thought of when I married him because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's right. My child's going to eat a crap ton too. But I was
Yeah.
so sick, I also couldn't get up and go do anything. And part
Yeah.
of that was probably because of the endometriosis. And then
Yeah.
I broke my pelvis. And
Yeah.
so when I went to go have her, I just stopped dilating. I wouldn't dilate anymore. And then, of course, for some reason, she was trying to come out face first. And so I had a C-section. And it was after the C-section, I kept having these crazy painful periods. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I went in and they did the laparoscopy surgery. And the doctor came up to me and he was like, it is a miracle that you got pregnant and had a kid. And it was something that I used to be so scared of, right? Several years before Brady and I got married, I was so worried about whether or not I would be able to get pregnant because I had such bad periods, and I knew that
Yeah.
I had a cyst on my ovary that was, like, really painful that
Yeah.
would
I got cysts too. Yeah.
yeah, and it would
Those
burst
aren't
all the
fun.
time. I'd go into the hospital, and they'd be like, "Oh, no, you're fine," and I'm like, "Dude, I am not fine."
Yeah.
And I think I got put on as, like, a druggie or something like that, and like,
Yeah.
every time I'd go in the hospital, they thought that I was there for drugs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm dying. This hurts so bad."
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, like, all of my organs were fused together, and they had to, like, parade everything and the surgery. It's been this crazy
Yeah.
journey, and I'm on some medication now that I'm not a huge fan of, but we don't really have anything to help you with it, and
Yeah.
the research that I've done on it and stuff, it's pretty dang rough, and it's really common too.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of women who are like, "Oh, yeah, I have PCOS, I have endometriosis," or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like, why are we all struggling right now? Like, I don't
Yeah.
get it.
So, like, there was multiple times growing up that I ended up in the ER due to cramps because it was so painful, my body went into shock.
Yeah.
And, doctors wouldn't take me seriously. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's normal." No, I'm telling you, this pain is not normal. And I didn't realize that I did have quite a high pain tolerance due to it
Mhm.
because nothing that happened to me ever compared to cramps. It wasn't until Reba kicked me in the chest and I broke my sternum, 3 ribs, dislocated ribs, and bruised my heart. It was like 4 days later that I went into the ER. I had a chiropractor appointment that day. And I'm like, yeah, my chest kind of hurts, like to breathe and stuff, but the chiropractor will fix it when I go there. And the chiropractor's like, I'm not touching you. Go to the ER. And I went to the ER and they hooked me up on like EKGs. I had to be in there for monitoring and they took x-rays and CT scans. And they're like, if that ever happens again, you go to the ER immediately. They're like,
Yeah.
it's a miracle that you're not dead. Your heart is bruised. They're
Wow.
like, that's not good. And they're like,
Yeah.
why didn't you go to the ER? I'm like, well, it's nothing. I'm like, it didn't even hurt nearly as bad as cramps.
Like,
When I went to my doctor for my next checkup, she like pulled up my chart. She's like, you went to the ER? Like, she's like, you have a bruised heart and like told me a broken and fractured ribs. She's like, Sarah, what is going on? And I'm like, well, it didn't hurt that bad compared to period cramps. And then
right.
she's like, no, we need to like get figuring out she's like, it should not be like that for you, period cramps. She's like, a bruised heart should hurt more than that. And so that's when I found out that I had adeno and endo at the same time. And yeah, that she's like, no wonder you have all these broken bones that healed wrong because you never thought that they were broken.
Right. Yep, exactly. You're like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was broken." Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when I broke my pelvis. When I broke my pelvis is the very beginning of COVID, like 2020. And so I got bucked off my horse, had broken my pelvis, had a really bad concussion. I was knocked out for a while, and they actually life-flighted me to Boise for it, which I thought was way over the top. And I got there, and they did the X-rays, and I don't remember a whole lot because 1, I was on a crap ton of morphine, and 2, I
Yeah.
had a concussion. There wasn't a whole
Yeah.
lot of thinking going on, but they also wouldn't let any of my family members up. And so I
Yeah.
remember these doctors trying to talk to me, and I remember 2 different doctors arguing about whether or not I had actually broken my pelvis or not, and they, like, were looking at the X-ray and stuff, and then later this nurse comes up, and she goes, "We need you to go to the bathroom," and I'm like, "Okay, I can't really walk," and she's like, "No,
Yeah.
you gotta walk to the bathroom," and I'm just like, "Okay, I don't alright." So I did. I got up, and I hobbled my broken butt to the bathroom and back, and she was like, "Oh, well, if you can walk, you're fine," and they sent me home and gave me an X-ray, which clearly has a broken pelvis on it, and I went to PT and was on crutches for 3 months, and that was it. But
Yeah.
walking to the bathroom wasn't that bad because cramps were way worse, so, like, it
Yeah.
must not be that bad, right? And
Yeah.
now, like, I tell my doctor that, and she's like, "They made you walk on a broken pelvis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I did it."
Well, that kinda makes me think, about horses too, and like how horses are so good at masking pain.
Mhm.
Well, you and I talked about this recently on the phone. That's another thing that, like, has made me so much more in tune with horses because I'm so good at masking my pain because nothing compares to that.
Yeah, exactly, like, it can't hurt that bad.
So when my horses do start getting cranky and they do start doing things that's like non-typical, I'm like, you're in pain.
Mhm.
You're in pain. Like, I
Yep.
can tell.
I swear sometimes I have to have somebody else tell me that I'm hurting, and then I go,
Yeah.
"You're right. That does
Yeah.
hurt. I didn't realize it."
You're a little bit crankier than normal, like,
Yeah.
and a little bit more snippy than you usually are. Like, you're walking pretty stiff. Like,
Yep.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I am in pain. Now that you
Yeah.
mention it, I am in pain.
Yeah.
And so you and I talked about that. And then right after, of course, I was like, hey, guess what? Reba tore a muscle in her hock. But yeah, it was like, I think that's something that a lot of people miss with their horses too, not being in tune with them
Right.
is there's so many things that people label as behavioral issues when it's actually pain related in the horse. And like, granted, there is people on the other end of the spectrum where they're like, it's like they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on their horse because they're like, it has to be pain related. And it's like, no, that actually is behavioral. Your horse needs some schooling. It needs a come into Jesus moment,
Yep.
kind of deal. I posted a video of Reba after I went to take her out. And when I was leading her away, she kept bolting and running into me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is not normal for you. And so at first I was kind of just chalking it up to like she hasn't been ridden. Like I know that her leg was swollen and Jeff and I gave her time off. It's gone from 60 degrees to 20 degrees to, 40 degrees. Like the weather's been crazy. We had some different horses come in. I haven't been riding her. Jeff's been riding her. So like it was really easy to be like, it's probably just behavioral, even for me. And I went to lunge her because I was like, maybe she's just feeling a little bit fresh. And she just was bolting, like dragging me around the pen. And I'm like, this is not normal for her. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to ride her. And the next I got to thinking about it, I'm like, it has to be pain. This is very non-typical behavior for Reba. And my friend Abby came down and she does body work and she felt her and she's like, yeah, she's got a minor muscle tear in her hock. And which made sense because I was like, at first we were thinking pinched nerve because she'd walk like 5 or 6 steps completely fine, not favoring any legs, like
Yeah.
normal timing and all of that. And all of a sudden she just tuck her butt and bolt. And she always look off to her right. And I'm like, so maybe it's a pinched nerve in the hip. And yeah, and then Abby came down. She told me that. Like, that makes sense. It's not always that she could feel that tear, but like if she lengthens her stride with her hind end in that
Yeah.
hock, that's when she feels it.
Yeah.
And I posted the videos that I took for Abby to send to her originally before she came down. And I asked my TikTok followers, what is your evaluation of this?
Yeah.
I think there was 3 comments out of like 40 where those people were like, yeah, this is pain related. And those people were people that had been following me for a long time and they knew Reba very well. And they're like, it's Reba. This is not her. It has to be pain related. But a majority of my comments on there were all behavioral related. There's people that was assuming that I was halter breaking her and she was being naughty. There was people assuming that I've never trained her properly and she was just disrespecting me. There's people saying that she's been severely abused and didn't trust people. There's some people saying that she was scared of the other horses and trying to get away from the other horses. Like 90% of the comments were all saying it's behavioral related. And so I took that as a very good opportunity to show people, like, if you know your horses really well and you train them well to where they're very responsive and in tune with you, when something like this comes up, it's pain.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as behavioral issues with a well-trained horse.
Right.
And there's been plenty of times, like prior to working on a ranch, one of Jeff and I's first ranches, like I didn't really believe in equine chiropractic. I thought that was like a luxury expense kind of thing. I was like, whatever. And then one of the ranch horses that the ranch we were working for had, he was like a dog gentle horse. Anybody can ride him. He was fantastic. And all of a sudden he just started flipping over backwards on people. And they're like, we'll send him up to Sara. Sara will fix him. It's obviously a behavioral issue. And I was like, I think we should get the chiropractor out here, because that's not normal for that horse. Like, that horse was like the temperament, like Phil, just go do anything. And all of a sudden, just flips over backwards on people. And the chiropractor came out And she said that his shoulders were like 6 inches off from each other. He was in complete pain. Like, just like, she's like, I'm amazed that this horse was even able to be ridden. Like, he has been in pain for a long time. And that's why he started flipping over. So she
Wow.
did a couple of adjustments on him and he was fine after that. Like, he went back to being his old self.
Right.
And after that, I was like, routine chiropractic all the time on working
Yep.
horses, you know?
Yep. All the time.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you know your horses and you work with them and you train them, and then you get that routine chiropractic done and that routine, like I get body work done now on my horses because I prefer body work to chiropractic because the body worker tells me so much more about
Mhm.
my horses than a chiropractor can. Not that I'm against it. Like, if the horse needs chiropractic, I'll get chiropractic done, but I prefer body work most of the time. With my personal horses, I have not had an actual true behavioral issue in like 10 years. There's no such thing. When you know how to train and work with horses and you have control of them and you know how to communicate with them, when they do start to act out, it's like they're in pain. Something's
Yeah.
wrong. This isn't normal.
It's such an interesting thing to think about because as you're talking about, oh, this is out of the ordinary. I usually don't do this and stuff. I was kind of thinking about, God and knowing myself, right? I'm overly tough. Pain is nothing. It's fine. If it's not as bad as my period, it's not that bad. And always going through it. And like spiritually, like, how often do we ignore the pain that we're in? Emotionally, something's going on that we're trying to not pay attention to and pretend it's fine. And for me, I know there's been lots of times where, especially with my husband, I don't know why, but God always pairs you with a spouse that's going to like bring out all of your emotional problems and past
Yeah.
childhood traumas, right? And there's so many times where we'll be talking or doing something and all of a sudden he just irritates me and I'm like, leave me alone, just go away. Like, and I snap at it. And he's like, what's going on? Like, why are you upset by this? It's not a huge deal. It's the dishes, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's probably because I was always the one who had to do the dishes. And like, I was anxious about doing them because I had to get them done before my mom got home and before I got yelled at and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that, but you ignore it for so long and you don't pretend like it's there. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a me problem. And I see it in my
And it's,
horses too, for
yeah.
sure. Like
And it's,
my buckskin Simba, he's the toughest thing I've ever seen on four legs. I swear. He's not a Mustang. My buddy who when he owned him, he did a like blood test on him and he's Criolla, which is that Mexican breed.
yeah.
And they do the cow comes out of the chute and they squeeze the cow between two
Yeah.
different horses.
Yeah.
So that's his breeding. Stupid, tough, stupid, stubborn headed. He's exactly like me. It drives me nuts. And he's a hell of a good horse. He's a hell of a workhorse. You put that horse in an arena, though, he falls apart.
Yeah.
And
It's like
there,
Reba.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one day, he's terrible with his hind end. Terrible with his hind end. And like, I've watched me and the three previous owners before me work with this horse on his hind end for years. And I've gotten him to the point where he does pretty good if you just touch his hoof. But if you touch like any of the white sock that he has, he doesn't kick. He just wants to take it back now, which is way better than it
Yeah.
used to be. And I was like, we got to get over this problem, right? And so we tried a hind leg on, and he had plenty of room to get away. But he would just sit there and he'd fight and fight and fight and fight and fight that rope. Like all he had to do was step back and put his foot down and he'd be fine. And he'd fight and fight and fight. And that horse, one, pulled the post out of the ground. And two, only time I've ever seen him injured, and he injured his hip. And it wasn't crazy bad. He mostly just kind of popped it out of place and like not all the way out of place, but it was just, it needed to be
Yeah.
chiropractic and put back in. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And then I thought about it and I was thinking about like in high school, I played softball as a catcher. Way overly aggressive, had way too many concussions for it, and was constantly putting myself in harm's way in order to get the out. That was like the
Yeah.
only thing I cared about for some reason. And I broke my nose. I got hit in the head with softballs. Like I had bruises all the time. And I look back
Yeah.
at myself. I'm like, why would I do that? It's a game. I'm like, I got
Yeah.
a torn meniscus in my knee. My shoulder's messed up. Like I've got all of
Yeah.
these problems, but I do it anyways because I was so stubborn headed. And the truth is, I didn't even like softball that much, but I played
Yeah.
it for 11 years. I didn't know what else to do. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, man, why would I do that? Nowadays, I'm like, no, I don't feel good. I've got a cold. I'm staying home.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of myself. Thank you very much. I'm going to
Yeah.
go take a bubble bath. You guys have fun in the cold and the mud. I ain't going to do it. But I literally was so attuned to like tuning out myself and my body and like not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
until I started to build the relationship with God, and God was teaching me how to love myself, right? And a huge part of that was loving my body and taking care of
Yeah.
my body and who I am as a person. And that was really, really difficult for me. And now I see how important it was. And I wish that I had learned it at that young age when I was growing, because my body is jacked up and it hurts me.
Yeah. Same. But it's funny, like you talking about you comparing yourself to that horse, And I was just sitting there thinking, because one of the things that everybody talks about, how your horses are a mirror of you. And I always think that that's a funny thing for me personally with my two personal horses, Reba and Phil, because they are very opposite end of the spectrum horses.
Right.
Like Reba is very strong, opinionated, forward. She gets anxious super easy. She gets tight, intense. She gets stressed very easy. And like I said, she's opinionated. If she has an idea of how something should be done and you try to correct her, she takes it personally. And then I'm like, well, now I like my better horse, Phil. She's the complete opposite. She's soft. She's willing. She has a lot of try. She'll do anything you ask her. She's very just kind and responsive. You could throw anybody on her. You can put someone who's super advanced and she'll spin a hole in the dirt and do slide stops and rollbacks and be light and responsive in the spade, or you could put a 3-year-old on her and she's just going to plod around and just be super and take care of that kid. And she's like,
Yeah.
she wouldn't hurt a fly. Like, she's just one of those horses that is just very soft and willing and has try, and she wants to please. And like you just now saying, like, comparing yourself to that horse, I just kind of had this realization, like, Reba is me prior to truly having a relationship with God.
Yes. That's
Opinionated,
exactly what I was thinking. When you're about to say, I was like,
strong-willed,
yes.
independent, easily offended,
Yep.
just bullheaded, do it my way. This is how we gotta get the job done. Like how Reba tore her hock muscles because she is a horse that does not slow down. She will go until her legs fall off when she
Mhm.
collapses underneath you. She will not quit on you. And that's one of the reasons why she makes such a dang good ranch horse. She sucks in the arena, but gathering cows in steep rut country, you could do 30-mile days on her 6 days in a row, and she will never on you. She might give you an attitude. She's going to be opinionated on how it should get done. And every time you go up a hill, she wants to get to the top the fastest. She wants to be the first one there. She wants to be the horse in the front. She wants to just go, 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 get it done, do the job, take it seriously, doing it this way.
Yep.
And then you got Phil, and that's me now, who I am now. She listens. She's waiting for me to give her, and like you said, like horses are one of those rare opportunities where you can put yourself in God's shoes. Me riding Reba prior to giving my, having a strong relationship with God was just me all the time. Do it my way, get it done, get it fast, work hard, grind, wear your body out, hurt yourself, keep going, doesn't matter, get the job done, do it my way. And now I'm like, hey, God, what do you want me to do here? This is a little bit weird. It's not the way I would have done it, but this is cool. I think your way's better anyways. It's a lot easier. Hey, God, what are we doing next? Hey, God, oh, we're taking care of a kid now? I'm going to be even softer and kinder, and I'm going to take care of this child with grace and with love and gentleness.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to do anything to make this kid feel like they should be scared of me, And it's like just having that realization just now makes me so happy that I could have this, because that has literally been a thing that I've been pondering for years. I'm like, everybody keeps saying your horse is a reflection of you. I'm like, why do I have this stubborn headed, forward, anxious, tight, tense mare? And why do I have this one that's just easy, go with the flow, been there, done that? Whatever you want me to do. What do you want me to do next? I'll do it. Let's have fun, And I'm like, how are my horses a reflection of me? And now I'm like, that's me before God.
Isn't that beautiful?
Before truly, yeah. And it's just truly amazing, just having that realization here on, literally, I've been contemplating that for years with these two horses. And I'm like, oh, it's God speaking to me right here on this podcast.
There you go. Yeah, I know, it's been interesting, like, there's been several times where Brady and I have, like, contemplated selling Simba because he is a pain. He is
Yeah.
such a pain, and that horse is so interesting. So, a buddy of mine bought him when I was working at the feedlot, and he paid one of the other guys there to start him for several months, and then the guy who owned him rode him for, like, 8 months, and then he traded him to one of the other guys that we worked with, and when that guy was like, "I don't want this horse anymore," like, everybody just kinda gave up on him, right? And Nate was like, "Oh, yeah, I don't want this horse anymore," and I was like, "I'll buy him," because I watched this horse get started, like, I've been around him for, gosh, like
Yeah.
2 years or something like that, and I was like, "I'll take him." And I always liked him, I don't know why, he was crazy, and so I took him and I rode him. I remember Nate telling me all the time, he's like, "Jess, you gotta be careful. It's a lot of horse. He's a
Yeah.
lot, like, you gotta be careful." And I'm like tiny, young, 20-something-year-old girl. I'm like, "Nah, it's fine, I'll get it." And,
Yeah.
like, honestly, I think the pride in me was like, "Oh, you guys all failed to make this a nice horse, so I'm gonna make him a nice horse." That
Yeah.
didn't happen. And I've had him for years now, and he's way better than he used to be. But it has been the slowest process,
Yeah.
right? Like, usually I can take a horse and within at least, like, the very longest, a year, that horse is pretty dang trustworthy. He's pretty great. Like, you don't really got to worry about him and any, like, and this horse has not been like that. He's the horse I've owned the longest. I've had him for 6, 7 years now.
Yeah. It was
And
the same. Yeah.
yeah, and, like, there's been times where I've taken him all the way up into the two rein, into the bridle. Like, I
Yeah.
brought him back down in a snaffle bit again already. Like,
Yeah.
I ride him in a snaffle bit only right now, and I've had him for years. But it's been interesting because I had all this pride about, "Oh, I'm gonna make him a nice horse. I'm gonna make him a nice
Yeah.
horse." And when I got
Yeah.
pregnant, I didn't ride him. I was like, I can't move fast enough for this horse. He's too athletic. He's too
Yeah.
spooky. I know I can't stay on him." So Brady rode him for 2 years. Then, Brady was riding him, and Brady was starting to get to the point where he was like, "Dude, I am so over this horse. He's pushy. He doesn't listen. He won't soften up in the rib cage. Like, he's so opinionated, and he thinks that he
Yeah.
doesn't need you to do the job. He's pretty dang sure he can do the job by
Yeah.
himself." Sounds like somebody else I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I think I need help." And so I have this really good friend. Her name's Clarissa, and Clarissa was this amazing horse trainer. Went to worlds and like quarter horse, American Quarter Horse Association stuff. She moved up from California, and I don't know why this girl called me one day and decided she wanted to learn how to rope. And it's just, we just became friends. And she's a therapist too. For some reason, I have a lot of therapists in my life. I asked her, I was like, "Can you help me? Like, I don't know what to do with him." I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've taken him as far as I can. I need help." And so this summer she rode him, and she rode him in the arena. And that horse has actually started to calm down, and he
Yeah.
listens, and he gives in the rib cage for the first time, and he'll relax his jaw and his poll, and he'll drop his head and walk and trot at a slow trot without me having to like hold him back 24/7.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, like, I've changed a lot, especially after
Yeah.
having the baby. And I've grown a lot in my spirituality. But how much of that is due to the people God's put in my life?
Yeah.
How much of that is due to the fact that, like, I let go of my pride and thinking that I'm going to do all
Yeah.
of these things by myself? Because I can't. Like,
Yeah.
I love Simba to death. He is my good workhorse. He's not an arena
Yeah.
horse, which is fine. He doesn't have to be
Yeah.
an arena horse.
Yeah.
I don't need to make him an arena horse. He's a great workhorse. He is dirty tough.
Yeah.
And I think I remember telling you about it, the blue roan mare, big girl, right?
Yeah.
So we got her. She was supposed to be mine. I was very excited about it. Turns out big girl is big and very tall, and I am
That's
not.
what you get for naming her Big Girl.
Yeah, probably. It's my own fault. Brady was starting her, and she's a little touchy and stuff, and I can't get on her on the ground. My stirrups so high out there. And she just doesn't like me that much, but she loves Brady.
Yeah.
And so I kind of gave in, and I was like, because I had this dream of like, oh, a blue roan, which was dumb. And I kind of gave in.
Everybody has that
"Honey,"
dream.
I know, right? We all do. I was like, "I'm so special. I get my blue roan." No,
Yeah.
it's Brady's horse now. And I'm okay with it. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't need to have this special, like, this is going to be my horse thing.
Yeah.
But it was something I really wanted because I used to have another mare that I had to sell after I broke my pelvis. And I wanted that horse that had that connection again. Because as much as I love Simba and how good he is and how great he is at doing a job, there's not that, like, oh, this is my horse.
Connection.
Kind of like how you have with Finn, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the, like, this is the horse.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, Brady made a trade deal on some training with this friend of ours for this colt. And I didn't really want him. I was like, I don't really want this horse. And he was like, no, he's going to be great. And well, he's papered and stuff and he's going to be awesome. And I'll train him up and I'll sell him. I'm like, all right, here's the deal. If you're going to take this horse, don't let me touch him. Like that is the
Yeah.
basis. Like I stopped with like working with the client horses and if the horse is not ours to keep, you don't have me touch it because I fall in love with it and then I
Yeah.
don't want to
I
sell
have
it.
the same problem.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, we've got this colt. I don't touch it. So he was like 8 months old. We brought him home. We turned him out in like this huge pasture with all the other horses and cows and stuff. And we're like, go grow up and learn how to socialize because he had been in a pen his whole life.
Yeah.
And we went to go bring him in because he was starting to get old enough and we needed to cut him. And we went to bring him in and one of the other horses shoved him through the barbed wire fence, iced his leg open real bad, like all the way down to the bone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to have to put this thing down. So I take him to the vet and the vet looks at it and he goes, no, I think he's going to be okay. You're really lucky, but I think not only will he be sound, he'll be athletically sound. And I'm like, wow, great. Okay. Now he's only been haltered like 6 times, which was a mistake in myself, but I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna have to get him halter broke while we're trying to doctor this leg. And dude, this little horse, he turned out so stinking gentle. Like he'd load right up in the trailer and get out and he'd stand there for me to doctor his leg. And then I fell in love with him and I was like, yeah, you don't get to get rid of him now.
Yeah.
And then so we doctored his leg, he got better, and then he injured another leg, and so I started doctoring that. And this was after I finally gave up on the whole like, oh, big girl's gonna be my horse.
Yeah.
And now this little horse, we call him Spoon, and Spoon's mine. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to start him. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care how dead broke this little thing is. Like Layla was riding him before we ever got him started. We just set him on his back.
Yeah.
He was just like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And he's a
Yeah.
stud. And I'm like, oh, man. But I was like, no, I don't need to be that like super puncher awesome. Like I can do everything myself and do the job myself.
Yeah.
Like I can let this go. And Brady, we have a bunch of client horses and he's been busy and stuff. And my friend Clarissa, like she comes out and rides with us so regularly because she just missed training horses. She just doesn't have horses anymore. She lives in town and she basically gets her horse stuff from me and she won't let me freaking pay her or nothing. She just comes out. She goes, oh no, I'll just help you with client horses. It's fine. She's like this $1 million rider. She's like, oh no, I'll just come help you because I can. I'm a woman. And so she calls me and she's like, well, I know you guys are really busy and you've got a couple rides on Spoon. Do you want to just send him over for a month? I'll board him over here and I'll ride him. And I was just like, sure. Like, I don't even need my husband
Sweet.
to do it. I know, right?
Yeah.
How spoiled am I? And so we just dropped him off today. And I'm like, it's weird, but I'm proud of myself for letting go. You know, letting go of the pride and the ego of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a super puncher and do it myself. I can do it all
Yeah.
myself. I don't need to. It's not the end of the world. Like, yes, I will have a special connection with the horse, but I don't need the connection. I don't need like it's gonna be my horse. Cause I realized in doing that, like it puts the horse as an idol, right? It puts it up there where like my relationship with God needs to be.
So I think it's really funny. You're sitting there talking about how you really liked Simba because he's got a really hardworking work ethic and he's a good workhorse and stuff like that. But now you're kind of searching for that horse that you have that deeper connection with, kind of like I do with Philly Nick.
Yeah.
And that just really got me thinking because I think it's really funny. Prior to me getting a deeper relationship with Christ, even though I had Phil and Reba at the same time, I really didn't enjoy Phil that much. She was lazy. You really had to make her like get a fire under her belly. And Reba was like my horse. Like I loved her. I adored her because she was hardworking. She just, like I said, you can ride her into the ground. She'll keep going until her legs fall off. Like, even though she's opinionated, she's sensitive, stubborn. Like, she was I love that horse. I used her for everything. And now that I have a more deeply rooted relationship with Christ and my life and my heart aligns with his, I actually find myself having a deeper connection with Philly Nick, the horse that is softer, that is kinder, that looks to me for guidance and direction versus the horse that was that is stubborn and opinionated and sassy and easily offended and all of this stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, I still love Reba. I adore her. But since I've gotten a more deeply rooted relationship with Christ, I've noticed that the horse that's heart aligns with mine, I am more proud of and I want to spend more time with, and I feel a much deeper connection with her than I do with Reba. Like, I still have a connection with Reba, but there's a lot of things that when I'm riding her that just she makes me more frustrated now than she did in the past, things that never bothered me before that I'm like, if you could just soften, if you could just relax, if you could just stop being so anxious all of the time, like things would be so much easier. And I find myself like writing Phil all of the time for everything. And that was Reba before my relation, strengthening my relationship with Christ. And it made me kind of think that it's kind of like Christ with us. You know, he's seeking you to have a heart aligned with his that looks to him for guidance. And I find myself now, prior to having a deeper relationship with Christ, I was Reba. Just like I said earlier, like the horse, been contemplating that the horse mirrors you, you know, so what about my horses? And so now I find myself then like, Philly Neck is me now. Reba was me before Christ. Or not before Christ, but before a deep relationship with Christ, a more, you know, rooted relationship. And I find it just really amazing that my total preference of horses has drastically changed since my heart is changed and become more aligned with Christ. You know, I seek the horses that are very willing, that look for that guidance, that when you're riding them, they're in tune with you and it feels like you're reading each other's minds. And it's just you have this deep rooted connection. And it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to go out and both of you are going to do it in 100% confidence in each other. You're like, I'd love to compete on ranch rodeos on her now. Like, she's my favorite horse to brand off of because when I go out into the branding trap, we just know each other so well and it makes the job so much easier. And we can do things so much quicker and so much more efficiently without having a fight. And it's just such a deep rooted connection. And I like seeing that comparison of me before having such a strong relationship with Christ, being independent, being strong-willed, being stubborn. And those are the horses that I preferred then, is the horses that mirrored me and my personality and the way that my heart was. But now that I have a deeper relationship with Christ and I have a softer heart, a more understanding heart, a heart that is kinder and seeks guidance and seeks wisdom from God. Now I find myself really appreciating the horses that have those same aspects that I have developed through my relationship with Christ that they themselves are showing me. And it gives me even more gratitude for, you know, God and who he is and the appreciation that he shows for us. And being able to speak to me through those things is pretty absolutely amazing. Just showing me that, you know, I have one horse that was me going down my own path, making my own decisions, just being stubborn and bullheaded along the way, thinking that my way was best. And, you know, my other horse that is just the entire time, she's like, what do we do next, Mom? What do we do next? You know, and excited and willing and trying. Like, she just wants to do it all and she wants to please. And that's a mirror of me now with my relationship with Christ, now that I'm more deeply rooted in him.
And there's something so healing about looking at not just one horse, but a couple horses and seeing your growth, right? Not just in your horsemanship, but in who you are as a person because you're reflected in them.
Yeah,
And like I said there for a while, I didn't ride Simba after having the baby because he
yeah,
was too much. I didn't have the muscle to stay on. I had C-section. And I also, part of the reason I didn't ride him was because like I didn't want to. I didn't
yeah,
want to face who I was. I kind
yeah,
of wanted to ignore it and move on. I started riding this other horse that Brady and I have. You've seen him. You rode him, Sloth, that big dun horse.
Yeah.
And Sloth is very much more like my husband, and soft and quiet and willing and kind of lazy, which is why his name is Sloth. And I love Sloth. And so I rode Sloth. I rode Sloth when I was pregnant. I rode Sloth after the baby was born. Like, I didn't really ride any other horses because he was the dead, broke, quiet horse.
Yeah.
And I love Sloth. And I think that he's awesome and he's great. Lied, though. And he's still a tank.
Yeah, I remember. My hips hurt after riding him.
Yeah. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't really want to ride this horse anymore. I want to go back to Simba. I started riding Simba again for work, just here and there. And when I got back on Simba, he actually kind of babied me for a while.
Yeah.
He knew I couldn't ride the way that I used to. Like, he was quiet with me. Brady and I, we went out one day to go gather cows, and I went with, and I rode Simba because that was who had shoes at the moment. And Brady was riding a client horse, and I hadn't ridden him in a while. And these things did not want to go where we asked them to. They were crappy cows. And there's one we were fighting, and he'd get up and he'd move and box it and stuff like that. But he waited for me. Like, he'd move and he'd feel me like lose my balance, and then he'd slow down and like move slowly. I was surprised. And we'd go out in the hills and he'd walk. He didn't jig everywhere, try and like dart off one way or do the job by himself. He actually slowed down and started to wait for me. I was really surprised. And I realized that it was in my softness that the horse became soft.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that I thought about when I was working with him and training with him, because I was like, there's always a battle. Riding that horse has always been a battle. It's you against him.
Yeah.
It was never you and him together. And I never thought that maybe to make the horse soft, I needed to be soft.
Yeah.
And motherhood was what softened me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, becoming a mother is so important. And like, I wrote a post about it the other day, the idea of breaking a horse, right? Because a lot of people hear the word, breaking a horse, and they think, like, breaking has so many different terms. You know, you can break a glass jar, or you can break in a new pair of shoes, right? Same, but different.
Yeah.
And when you go to break a horse, it reminds me of the way that God breaks us, right? Like earlier we talked about, like, when you start following Christ, things start to get harder. They don't get easier. And so in that breaking, I realized that if I wanted this horse to be soft, then I needed to learn how to be soft. And that is something that I have appreciated in Christ so much, is his ability to soften me again. Like, I don't remember a whole lot of my childhood just from all of the concussions. And I do remember my grandmother was so proud of me as a little girl, because I was that kid who, she was like, you'd sit on the toilet and sing Jesus Loves Me at like the top of your lungs.
Yeah.
And I think about it, and watching Layla grow up, I see myself almost becoming childlike again. You hear Christ talk about that in the Bible so much, to have faith like a child. And I'm becoming soft in a culture and in a world where if you wanted to make it, especially as a woman, you had to be tough.
Yes.
And now I'm appreciating being soft, but I don't think I ever would have gotten there without my husband and my daughter. I don't think that going through those trials and going through those things, and now, even though Simba's back in a snaffle bit and that horse is still dirty, rotten tough, he curb stomped a cow the other day at the sale barn. It was great. But that horse has become softer. He wants to please. He wants to be with me. And I realized that in healing, it's not just about moving on from who you were and now this is who you are, but maybe even going back and healing who you were.
Yes.
And going back and working in that space, right? Going back and working with Simba again and being like, okay, why were you hard in the first place, and how do you soften that? And like that for me has been something that I'm like, holy cow, because like I just wanted to move on. Like, I almost sold him. I was about ready to sell that horse and just be like, okay, I throw in the towel. I'm done. I don't care anymore. Like, I'm so tired of fighting with this thing. Like, I just want to be done, move on, and be who I am now.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. I couldn't. There was just something in me. Like, the idea of selling him, I was like, I can't do it. It's going to break me. Like, I cried thinking about it, and I don't know why. And finally I was like, no, I can't do it. And I'm really glad that I didn't, because I'm riding him 3-4 times a week right now, especially for work. And to have him and watch him soften and realize that he's softening because I'm softening finally. And then not only that, but I seek it. I seek the peace and the quiet and being feminine. And I don't want to be tough. I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be the cowboy. I just want to be a girl. I'm okay with it. I don't need to go out and do all of these things because I can still do them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can still go out and rope the calf and tie off. I can put it in the chute. I know how to put the ear. It's fine. It's not a huge deal. I don't need to prove that I can do it anymore because who is there that I need to impress anyways?
Yeah.
God gave me the skill. He's the only one that really matters. My husband knows I'm the person he calls like the quickest when he gets into trouble. He's like, hey, I need
Yeah.
you to come save me. But like, I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. And anybody who
Yeah.
thinks that I do, I'm like, okay, and see ya.
Yeah.
Bye. I don't know what you want from me. And so I just, wow.
That you mentioned, like, that you've contemplated signs because Jeff and I, like, we went through a period, up in North Idaho, especially having 3 horses. It was like, well, when we first moved up there, we had 4. And we sold 1, the colt, and I told Jeff, "We gotta sell him because I'm pregnant, and if we keep him, I'm gonna make bad decisions." It's one of those things that's like, we went through and it was like, "Okay, if we have to sell a horse, which horse is it gonna be?" And Jeff's like, "I'm not selling Cricket. Like, that's my horse." And I was like, "Well, we can't sell Phil because Phil's like, you could put anybody on her. Junie's gonna learn to ride on her. She's the safest horse that we've ever had." And so I was like, if it comes down to having to sell a horse, we're gonna have to sell Reba. And it was one of those things we went back and forth so much about because I'd be like, okay, maybe we should. And then I was like, I just can't. I just can't. And because she's so opinionated, she's so sensitive, she's so sassy. And so, I'm like, I can't imagine selling her and her ending up in a good situation. If somebody doesn't understand her, it's going to be a wreck. It's going to be bad. And she's not going to end up in a good situation. So she would have to go to like the absolutely perfect right home. So we never we never sold her because of that. It was just one of those things that was like, okay, well, just keep her until she retires and then find her a retirement home where somebody needs a pasture pay, I guess. And then we moved out and we started cowboying and stuff like that. And Jeff started riding her. And Jeff, like, he went from hating her, like, he went from, like, begging me every month, can we please sell these freaking horse? Because he hated her so much. And then he started using her on the ranch in this steep, rough, like, country that we have here. And he's like, I actually kind of like her. She's pretty cool. But that was one of those things, yeah, like he said that, like, since you've become softer when we were up in North Idaho, when I started riding again after having Juniper and I started getting my balance back and all of that, I really didn't ride Reba that much after having Juniper because my balance was so off. And then I didn't feel confident because she's so quick. It's not that I thought that she would buck me off or be counterfeit or do anything to put me in danger. But she's so sensitive that I felt like if I were to lose my balance, she's not the horse that is like, oh, she just lost her balance. Let me stand. She's like, oh, she shifted her weight. I need to go that way. And so I was so scared to ride her because I was like, I don't trust my own balance that I'm not going to cue her out from underneath me when I lose my balance. And when I did start riding her again, it was one of those things, just like you said, like I had softened so much after having Juniper that she softened in ways that I had like prayed for years. Like, please just soften for me. And it was a nonstop battle with her to get her to just calm down. And that was one of those things, like you said, like your horses are a reflection of you. And she wasn't soft before because I wasn't soft. And it's not that my hands and like my body itself, the way that I was riding her was, my heart wasn't. I was a lot quicker to correct. I was a lot quicker to get on her and nitpick. I was a lot quicker to, just be stern with her when she did something wrong. But after my heart had softened, I wasn't holding that contentment for the mistakes that she was making, but I was a lot more forgiving and graceful to her. And because of that, she softened as well, just like Simba had softened with you.
I've been riding Simba at the sale barn so much because he can take it. He can work them long days, and he's really handy because he's got that breed in him that wants to push. So you can put a cow up to him and he'll take his chest and push the cow. It's great. And, one of the things I've always struggled with is like, he wants to belly button turn. He doesn't want to get on his haunches and move his shoulders over. And I finally was like, dude, I'm not going to penny pick you through this turn anymore. I was like, I ask you to turn, just turn. So I just kind of let the reins down and I'd take my leg and just kind of like a big slap, not a kick, not a heel, just kind of like a fan. And I'm like, turn, 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 turn. And dude, that horse is spinning holes in the dirt right now. And something I haven't been able to get him to do ever. And I'm just like, where did this come from? And it's because I gave in. I let him make mistakes. It's okay for him to make mistakes. I also figured out, total side note, that his mane is incredibly thick because of his breed. And so he couldn't feel my neck rein. So part of the reason he would get anxious because every time I go to neck rein him, his hair was in the way and he couldn't feel it. And then he was like, I'm going to get in trouble and I don't know if I'm supposed to turn or not. And so I started putting his hair up. He looks like Jason Momoa. He gets a man bun every day. It's great. But it's so amazing to watch this horse like calm down for the first time, even doing a job. Like usually working cows, he's like, fire breathing dragon, let's go. And I'm like, calm down, stop it. And then now I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. Like you are what you are. And now he wants to be broke because I let go and I've softened and I've relaxed.
It's so funny that like you and I are going through that with like horses that are Reba has a very thick mane too, like super thick. And when we were in North Idaho, like she didn't neck rein to the left very well. And I figured out it was because of her mane that's this thick. And so I started I'd French braid it down and I'd ride her with her mane braided. And she's like, oh, okay. And one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got with her was from Carson James. He came and rode with us and I was asking because I was trying to get her to do a haunch turn and she was doing the same thing. She was Coke bottling, And I'm like, I just can't get her to stay on, like she'll start out on her haunches and then she'll head to like a quarter of a turn and then her hind end swings out. And I'm like, I don't know, like, so I back her up, get her on her haunches again, try it again, and like all this stuff. And he told me, he goes, Sarah, you just are nitpicking her face to death. And he goes, what you need to do is worry about the body, and then the head will follow. He goes, don't worry about what her head is doing, because she's trying to figure out her balance. And she's starting to make the turn. She hasn't figured out the balance to get back on her haunches and actually make a good haunch turn. And so she goes to move forward or toss her head. You nitpick her head. You throw her off balance and she Coke bottles. And so he goes, worry about the body and the head will follow. And so I just started worrying about move your shoulders. That's all. I don't care if you take a step forward, take a step back. I don't care what your head is doing. Just move your shoulders. And then pretty soon I was starting to start spinning her around. And before I knew it, I wasn't even worried about her head. I wasn't doing anything with her head. But pretty soon she was breaking at the pole and softening her neck and coming up underneath herself and making a good haunch turn all on her own. And the only thing I was focused on was the fact that she was rock backed on her hind end and moving her shoulders. And then pretty soon it all came together once she figured that balance out for herself. And she started doing a really nice spin and a turnaround. Put together really well. And I'm like, I've been struggling with this for 5 years. 5 years I've been trying to get this horse to spin. I could never get to do it. And all I had to do was stop pulling on her freaking face because she tossed her head.
Dang. It's so funny how we just always get in our own way. I remember when I first met Clarissa, she came out to ride with me and she was riding my paint horse Zeus and I was riding Simba and she was riding with me. She asked me, she goes, are you nervous? And I'm like, no, why? She's like, your hips are tight. And I'm like, what do you mean my hips are tight? Like I literally teach people regularly how to breathe through their butt so their hips aren't tight. And she's like, yeah, your hips are tight. Do I make you nervous? And I'm like, no, I don't know what's going on. Like, why are my hips tight? And it drove me nuts because I'm like, what is wrong with me right now? And like, it was because I was riding Simba. My hips wouldn't do that when I rode Zeus. It was just Simba. But he was such a reflection of me. And like, that nitpicking and the tight.
You're so anticipating that forward. And I had the exact same problem with Reba. Exact same problem. It's so funny because the same thing happened with friend Megan and I. Like, she's really into like body, like human body biomechanics, and I focus on equine biomechanics. And I was riding Reba one day, and I'm like, she's just not softening in the ribs, and she's just not engaging her hind end. Like, I was struggling with it. She's like, Sarah, your hips are like 100% locked. I'm like, no, they're not. I'm not coming out of the seat. And she's like, she recorded me. I'm like, oh my God, my hips are locked. And her hips are locked because mine, she's hollowing out in her back because I'm hollowed out in my back, anticipating her just taking off.
Right? You're so ready for it. It was interesting. One of those things that I kind of realized, and I remember I taught this girl, I only taught her for a couple months. It wasn't very long. And she did, I think it was raining, if I remember correctly. And she had two horses. One that she bought and like she didn't start it. Somebody else started it, but she had been riding it for a while, was showing for a really long time. And then she had this 4-year-old that she started. She had never started a horse before. This was her first one. And she wanted help with this colt moving it forward, right? And to be honest, for someone who started like their first colt, she did amazing. She made a nice horse. And she's riding it. And like I worked with her for a couple months and stuff. And she was about to go back to college because she was home for the summer. And I was standing there. I'm just like, this horse is dead broke. This 4-year-old is amazing. He does everything that she asked. So I was like, we're going to do something new today. Had her get on the horse bareback. She's riding the horse bareback and stuff. And I walk up and I take the bridle off. And I'm like, okay, go right around. She's walking around. I'm like, okay, turn left. And she turns around. I'm like, okay, go right. She turns around. I'm like, stop. She stops. I'm like, back up. She backs up. No, nothing, right? Completely bridleless, bareback. I'm like, trot. She trots and stops. And the horse does everything that she asks. And I looked at her and I was like, your horse is broke. You just have to believe now that your horse is broke. And I think we get so stuck in this idea of like, oh, this is who my horse is. And we never let him grow past it. Right? We never go, okay, you are more broke than I think that you are. Especially when you start a colt and you're like, well, this is a colt. And you just keep thinking they're a colt and you never get to the mindset of like, okay, you're broke now. You're not a colt anymore. There has to be a decision at some point that you're no longer a colt. And gosh, coming to mind now, I'm like, how often do we do that with God? You're like, oh, I'm not that great. Oh no, I make all of these problems. Oh no, I did like God trusted. Like I do that to myself regularly. Like people come up to me and they're like, oh, you're so amazing. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a terrible person. Don't talk to me. I promise. And I was sitting there. I'm like, I must not be that bad if he trusted me to do this. So I guess I should probably give myself a little bit more credit and trust myself a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, God does not doubt us. He gives us the guidance and he gives us the direction. All we got to do is listen. We can't get stuck in that mindset of this is who I am. It's like, because there's nothing about you that God can't change and make better. He makes you who you are to your core. And there's ways that you can grow and do better. The things that about you that are human nature that you can change when you align your heart with God, but you can't get stuck in that mindset of, I'm just this terrible person. I'm just this lowly human who can never do right. Because that's not true. God created you with divine purpose. He created you to do a job. He is, when you meet that colt that you start under saddle or you go and work with somebody's horse that just like, you get on it and you ride it for an hour and you're like, oh my gosh, this horse has so much freaking potential. Like it's smart, it thinks, it processes, it's got the go, it's got the try, it's got so much potential to be this amazing horse. That's how God views us. Like you can look at this colt and you can look at this horse that somebody else has and you could be like, yeah, it needs a little bit more refinement here, or maybe a little bit refinement here, or maybe if you change how you do things a little bit here, it will excel tremendously, and it will be probably one of the best horses that you ever own. That's how God sees us. He's like, I created you with divine intention. I created you with a purpose. And you have a lot of potential. All you got to do is just tweak a little bit things here, refine a little bit here, align your heart with me, and you'll do things greater than you ever even imagined. Me making podcasts about horsemanship and faith, this Biblical Buckaroo podcast. Even just 2 years ago, I would have told you, no, that's not something I'm ever going to do. The missionary work, that's for my sister. She went to college for it. I'll stick to training horses. Like, that's not true. God created us with a purpose, and all you have to do is soften and go to him and listen to him, and you will be doing things beyond your wildest dreams. He has a amazing plan for you.
I was the same way. Like, if you had told me a couple years ago, like, we'd be sitting here doing a Biblical Buckaroo podcast, I would have laughed in your face. I'm like,
Yeah,
she
me
went to
too.
a party last night and got super crossfaded. What do you mean I'm going to be preaching?
No.
And now it's like, I can't imagine ever doing anything else. I heard
Yeah.
one person talk to me. They were like, you can't fall in love with every single horse's potential, because no matter what their potential is, like, they might end up in a home where they don't reach that potential.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, like, so many people in this world have something that God probably set up for their lives and they didn't follow it, right?
Yeah.
And so many times people are like, how did you end up doing this? Why did you end up doing this? And I tell them, I just said yes. I got so tired of making my own plan and trying to make my way work and having it fail over and over and over again, that I told God yes. Whatever he wanted, whatever it was that he needed, I was going to do it. I got a perfect verse for it right here. It says, whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.
Verse.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I found my life by finding Christ, because I knew that whatever he wanted was going to be way better than what I could do.
Yeah.
And that, like, I hate when people ask me, they're like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Whatever God
Ask
said.
God. Yeah.
Ask Jesus. Ask him what my plan for tomorrow is, because I don't know. It's like, I got a Google Calendar. We're going to follow it loosely. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Man, I think that's a good ending topic. What do you think?
I think so too. I agree.
Do you want to pray us out, or you want me to?
I'll let you pray, because my voice is like,
You sound a
it
little fried.
hurts. It hurts.
Dear God, we just want to come to you today as we close out and just tell you, God, we love you. Lord, we are so grateful to have the opportunity to come together as women, as ranchers, as buckaroos. And God, we are so grateful. We are so thankful for your peace and your love and your kindness and your patience in our growth, God. We are so incredibly grateful, Lord. You have blessed us in so many ways. You have blessed us in bringing Sara and I here together. And God, we just pray that, you bless every single one of our listeners here, God, who are just happy to listen and join us as we talk about you, God, and horses and our journey towards you, Lord. And we pray that whoever hears this today is encouraged, that they find a new passion for you, Lord, and wanting to come closer to you, God, and understand you more deeply. Lord, we thank you, we love you, and we trust you. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Jessie.
And I'm Sara.
And this is the Biblical Buckaroo.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.